What's going on, guys? So finally we are back here. The coil came in. If you didn't watch the last video, I left the ignition on and I'm pretty sure that's what fried it. Also, there's some uncertainty whether the old coil was a 6 volt or a 12 volt since this thing's been converted to 12 volt. But it was pretty gnarly looking. So, and by gnarly looking, I mean like that. But anyways, this one smells really burnt up. I'm sure that this is just absolutely toast. I was getting absolutely no current through it at all. So this one came in the mail. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this on. This is a 12 volt instead of this one. I don't know what this one is, but this one for sure is a 12 volt, so we're gonna go ahead and install that. So I know this sounds familiar, but this is the video where this thing is gonna start. And if I'm wrong, I promise you I will never upload a video on YouTube ever again, and that's my word. So I am that confident that this thing is gonna start. So let's go ahead and throw the coil on and see if we can at least get some spark. Okay, I've gotten the coil hooked back up in there. Got my ignition turned to on, and we're just checking for spark. So ignition on, and then you should see a spark jump the gap on this plug right here when I crank it. Oh yeah, we got spark. Okay, so that is obviously a very good sign. So we're gonna go ahead, slap this whole thing back together. The timing is set, so there is no reason why it shouldn't start, and if it doesn't, then obviously we're gonna have to take it all back apart, maybe, I don't know. But hopefully it'll start once this thing is put back together, so we're gonna start a time lapse. Okay, so we have everything changed out. We're gonna go ahead and see if we can crank it over and get this thing to fire now. That was so much easier than what I was expecting, so let's see what happens. Okay, so you heard it fire. That was without any starting fluid or anything like that. So now we just need to figure out, maybe it's a adjustment on the carburetor, or there might just be some stuff gummed up in there. So, of course we did a rebuild, but it wasn't like a full rebuild. So, we're gonna do some troubleshooting now and see if we can get this thing where it idles. So when I blow air through it, nothing seems like it's clogged up, but there are some marks that look like somebody at one point tried to take the jet out of there and must have scarred it up, because you can't get a flathead on it. It will not come out of there. So, and it's all chewed up, like broken off. There's actually metal flakes in it. Thank God the rebuild kits aren't that much, but yeah, I think that at this point we're gonna have to get a new carburetor. But I told you this video, so this is gonna be, I'm just gonna wait to put this video out until this thing starts. So, or I'm never posting on YouTube again, promise. Okay, so the carburetor should be in a couple days, but in the meantime, we're going to wire up the front lights on this. So I ripped all the wiring out whenever I got started on this project. So now we're gonna pull the headlight switch and see if we can hook these up. So basically how this works is you'll see a little strap that goes down here. That is going to be your ground. Basically it grounds through the way that this secures to the headlight bucket, and then you've got your positive side over here. So everything seems to be operational, so we're going to go ahead and strip this thing down, get these old wires off of it, and see what we can do here. So we're just going to tap into where it's switched on. That way that's going to be our power for our headlights, and then I will just leave the headlights in the on position. So the idea here is just to have the headlights on, that way it's like a dummy switch, and hopefully I won't forget ever to take the key out of the ignition again. You can do this several different ways, but really you need a minimum of at least 2 wires, one that'll go to the front, and then you can split it and then feed both headlights like that, or you can just run each headlight on its own separate wire. It doesn't really matter. And then of course you're going to have your work light in the back that you have to wire up. So we're going to do 3 separate wires just to keep it easy. Just run them both up there to supply their own headlight from here. I think that'll just make it a lot easier just to pull these wires off of the switch whenever I go to actually like start sanding on this thing and painting it and everything else. Okay, so the switch is all done. I've got a wire running up to here just for testing purposes. This is just temporarily mounted in there. So first up, ignition in the on position. There we go. So see, the idea is that whenever I use this tractor, I'll just leave the headlights on, and then when I come over here and I shut the ignition off, the lights go off too. Obviously, I am proof that you need a setup like this because I will leave my ignition on if I don't have headlights on to tell me, hey, stupid, you left the ignition on. All right, guys, a new carburetor came in, so we're gonna go ahead and install that right now. After I ordered this, I realized that most of the people are completely against using these cheaper carburetors that you find on Amazon and stuff. This one is made in China. It says it on the top. It appears to be nicely made, I'll give it that. So we're just gonna install it and see what happens. A lot of people say that you get like one start with these things and then they never start again. So, but then again, a lot of the reviews on Amazon were actually pretty good on these things. So I'm gonna go ahead and install it. It does come with a little tiny fuel filter. As you can see though, everything appears to be functioning properly. Seems like it's good build quality. So obviously that doesn't mean anything for what's inside of here. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we made it 4 seconds into a time lapse and there's already a problem. So the fitting where the fuel line runs into the carburetor, they've got like a little inline fuel filter that's in there. Obviously you can see the one I have on here now is the one off of the old carburetor because the other one broke. Literally I was just trying to like torque it down where it would seal properly, and it closed up the part where the fuel line goes in there. So you couldn't even start to feed the fuel line in there. So I had to take this old fitting off of the other carburetor and put it on here. So I'm gonna say the reviews that I've seen so far about expect on using old parts from the carburetor, I would say that those are definitely accurate reviews. Also, the fuel filter that came with this, I'm not gonna use that. That is like the most pathetic fuel filter I've ever seen in my life. So I'm not gonna use that. We'll go get a good one. They give you 3 gaskets for right here at the flange, which I'm not sure why they do that. So maybe they fail, I don't know. So we're gonna go ahead and install this and see what happens. Okay, well it's on there, so let's go ahead and fire this thing up. It did start right up, which is actually kind of mind-blowing to me. So whenever I was working the throttle linkage, it wasn't doing anything with the idle for the tractor. So I'm gonna see what the problem is there. All right, so I've been fiddling around with this thing, and what I ended up doing was adjusting the governor. Now it looks like I got full throttle travel. So let's go ahead and start the thing up and see if we can idle it down. All right guys, finally this thing is running. It's operating perfectly fine. Obviously we haven't tested the transmission and everything like that. I still haven't put any coolant or anything like that in there, so I need to make sure I get that in there before I run this thing any longer. But actually it runs flawlessly, it really does. It sounds good, idles down really well. That is exactly what I wanted to hear today, so I am very happy for that. So far for me, I gotta say that the Chinese carburetor is not that bad. It's not as bad as what everybody else was making it sound like. At least it started. So now I will let you know how long it lasts, because obviously the parts in there are not made for longevity, but So any day, all day, I would definitely recommend rebuilding the factory carburetor. But I think mine was kind of beyond repair because that needle was like busted in there. You couldn't get it out. So anyways, thank you for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like this kind of content. And stay tuned for plenty more videos.